Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where people get mistaken as employees when they aren't, and nobody has any clue how it keeps happening. But the stories are so entertaining. Guys, buckle up because in this episode, it has some wild stories. I hope you enjoy them and do hit that subscribe button for future tales. Let's dive in. So, 2 years ago, I was in the supermarket doing some shopping after work, wearing just a white t-shirt and some jeans. Now, it wasn't that busy, so there was only one regular cash open with 2 or 3 people in line and a set of like 6 self-checkouts open. After collecting my basket full of groceries, I walked to the self-scan area and was finishing up scanning the last few items in my basket. I had just finished and was gonna pay when Karen shows up. She says, "Ugh, don't you have a policy that if the line is longer than 2 people, you open up additional registers?" Now, I'm wondering why she's complaining to me in the otherwise empty self-scan area, but I decided to answer anyway. I said, there's nobody waiting at these registers, so I guess that doesn't apply. Karen says, "Well, I don't like to be kept waiting. How does this work? Are you gonna scan my groceries or do I have to scan everything myself?" So at this point, I'm completely flabbergasted. I said, "Huh? I don't work." She then interrupts me, steps up to the register, and starts scanning the few items she had, effectively adding them to my tab, interrupting my response with an exasperated sigh, saying how the youth nowadays is so lazy. She then goes off on a long rant about how the youth is useless. I'm in my 30s, and that customer service is worthless, and how she still has the ethics that she was taught as a child to work hard and whatnot. I still cannot get a single word in. In the meantime, she finishes scanning her items and taps her way through the payment process without even checking the final list of items on her receipt, nor checking the price, and she just pays the bill. Finally, she takes a breath, and I repeat what I was trying to say all along and said, "Look, I don't work here." Karen says, No, you don't. You clearly just stand here costing the company money. I've never seen a more useless cashier. So at that point, my groceries were paid for by her, and I was tired of her condescension, so I sarcastically said, "Thanks," and let her go on her way. If she really wants to pay for my groceries and insults me when I'm trying to warn her, I'm not gonna stop her. Now, I shop at the store regularly and checked with the customer service a few days later, but apparently, Karen didn't even come back to complain about her bill being significantly higher than it should have been. The customer service girl found the entire thing quite funny and mentioned that it's one of the reasons they're called self-serve registers. She definitely served herself. Now, you'd think that with the amount that Karen's complained, that she definitely would have noticed the cost was way too high and said something about it. So guys, in the comments, OP came out and said that her groceries were a total of 25 euros, which is about 30 bucks. So this happened about 16 or 17 years ago when I was in my late 20s. Now, one thing that I know about myself is that I'm a babyface. Even now at 44 years old, I get mistaken for a young 20-something all the time. So you can imagine what I looked like at the age of 27 or 28. Now, couple that with the fact that I'm a black man, which is relevant later, you can imagine what my life has been like. So that's my life in a nutshell. Cursed to forever be the young black man. So my team was having a retirement celebration for the manager, and we had a dinner party at a restaurant near our workplace. The shindig ended up being about 25 to 30 people who were mostly older, and it was nice. The manager shed a tear or two, gave a nice speech, blah blah blah, etc, etc. So fast forward to the end of the dinner, and we're all outside now, saying the final greetings and on the verge of dispersing. And I was among the group. So a few people start to make their way home, and our group is now whittled down to about 10 to 12 people. Other patrons and pedestrians are coming along like normal. And there we are, just chatting amongst ourselves. Notably, our manager was still there with his plaque, a relatively large picture frame, and a couple of gift bags. So again, it should have been evident to anybody who was in the restaurant for the last 2 hours who we were, and you would think. And then it happens. I will call her pre-Karen, since this was before people like her were a meme. She says, "Excuse me." I then turn around and she says, "Here are my keys." I asked her, "For what?" She says, "For you to get my car?" I told her, "I'm sorry ma'am, I don't work here." Now this Karen then says, "Listen, I don't have time for games. I'm tired, it's been a long day, and here are my keys." So as she's saying this, she tries to stuff her keys in my hand. At this point, I'm getting pissed. I tell her, if you put your keys in my hand, I'm gonna throw them across the street and into the gutter. Karen then says, then why do you have a badge on? Now, as she's saying this, she reaches out to grab my badge, which was on a lanyard, hanging around my neck around my midsection. But before she can, I snatch it away. I say, hey, if you touch me again, I will consider it assault and call the police. I don't work here. She then withdraws her hand and I release my badge. She then proceeds to study the badge. Now, it doesn't take any real effort to figure out that it's not a restaurant or a valet badge. Now, I do believe the restaurant contracts out their valet service, and having done valet work during college, I'm fairly certain my business attire does not in any way resemble the uniforms of the 2 or 3 companies that are in my area. And furthermore, none of them do badges on lanyards. So the Karen then looks me up and down, comes back to lock eyes with me, and while starting to turn away, she utters that word. You know which one. Under her breath. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that caught me off guard. And in the 15 years since, I've thought of the perfect comeback more times than I care to admit. But in that moment, I simply couldn't force words to come out of my mouth. So I just turned around and tried to shake off my shock and anger and proceed as if everything was fine. So she definitely deserved to have her keys thrown into the gutter at that point. So for all of you who are wondering, the perfect comeback that OP thought about for 15 years is this. He says, we share at least one thing in common. I think you're inferior too, but the difference is I have a reason. So I do stand-up comedy sometimes. I was performing at a bar/restaurant deal and was sitting in the back taking care of some emails, waiting for my set time. I went to the bar to get a drink and had a chat with the bartender for a few minutes and then got the signal I had 5 minutes till show, so I went back. When I got to the back room, I realized that I had left my phone on the bar, so I ran out again to collect it. So at this point enters Karen. She's sitting at a table, left of dead center facing the stage, right by the back entrance that I'd been popping in and out of all night. In a group of 6 or 7 people, I could hear her shrill voice dominating their conversation. Now, I need to mention that I was wearing a yellow sweatshirt and cargo shorts. The servers there all wear black. Karen says, Sir, excuse me, sir. I asked her, what's up? She says, can you check on the food, please? All we ordered were some wings, and it's been 45 minutes. I tell her, your server can help with that. I'm not a waiter. She says, oh, okay, dish boy, line cook, whatever. You work here, so when you go back there, ask about my food. I tell her, oh no, see, I'm a comedian. She then interrupts me and says, no, I get it. You aren't a waiter, but you work here. I tell her, kind of. Now, before I can explain to her that I kind of work here as a comedian, she says, there you go. You work here. You can bring me my food. Just go back to the kitchen, ask about my wings. You know, trot, trot, trot. Carry, carry, boom, done. I told her I can't do that. So at this point, she shrieks and says, why not? The others in her party are looking really uncomfortable. They try to wave me away. Now, I was just going down the stay and get into it with her track when the MC gets up there and goes, now a special treat for our patrons tonight, a local comedian. So I just stop myself, lock eyes with Karen, walk backwards to the stage, unflinching. I grab the microphone. Her table is cracking up realizing what just happened. And I say, well, I'd hope to do a show for you tonight, folks, but it looks like that won't be possible. Apparently, I've been reassigned to server. So at this point, I start riffing about people who think you work there when you don't and accuse you of lying and how absurd that concept is. But then it's too perfect. The waitress is coming out with the wings and headed straight for her table. Now, I know the waitress as I've performed there before. So I transition and I'm just like, you caught me, lady. I can't hide anymore. I then grab the wings from the waitress and I'm like, oh, Donna, I can see you're trying to hone in on my section. Can't you see this is my table? And all throughout the rest of my bits, I would go over to fill their water glasses. Whenever I hit a dry spot, I was like, all right, hold on, I gotta go check with my customers. Can I interest you in any dessert? How are we doing here? Speak into the mic, please. And Karen hated it. But the others at her table were dying laughing and would even sometimes flag me down for water or appetizers. The set ends and Karen goes to file a complaint. Her friends or coworkers or whoever were trying to stop her from doing so, and some even leave the venue because of her. A couple stay back to try to defend me, and I told them not to worry because the manager and I were cool, but they got to see for themselves. Now, the manager is an old school Armenian guy and has no tolerance for this. This particular venue was a biker bar, therefore the area got gentrified. So he's used to dealing with way rowdier customers than Karen. So she's going off about the mistreatment at the hands of his employee and how I'm probably not licensed to be a food server, and that she wanted something done about this. The manager just plays dumb just to see her get worked up and goes, "Who? This guy? He does not work for me." Karen says, "What are you talking about?" Manager says it's 11:30 p.m. He worked for me from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. That's what I paid him for as a freelancer. That's over. Now he's just some guy. She then says, "Well, when he was working for you, he was rude and making fun of me." I told her what? On stage? I'm a comedian. Comedian. You know what I mean. See? He's making fun of how I talk. The manager then says that I'm a comedian and that's what I'm paid for. Karen says, "Well, I was a customer, treated poorly in your establishment. He was acting as a server here when he served me, and I want a refund on my meal, or at the very least," turning to me, "an apology." I said, all right, I might have been a little rude towards the end there, but in my defense, she didn't tip. Karen looks at me and says, "Why would I tip a comedian?" "But I thought you said I was acting as a server." Now at this point, Karen was a little tipsy, so somehow drunk logic convinced her that smashing a glass would get her point across. All it did was get the manager have her bounced. So yeah, I don't have a career as a waiter in my future. Kudos to all you service workers who put up with these insufferable people day in and day out. Guys, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I have so much respect for anybody who has to deal with entitled idiots all day at work. I would have loved to see this comedy bit go down. So, apparently I look like I work at Costco. So this Karen with a Kate Gosselin haircut demanded that I get something off of a high shelf for her. Now, I was in a rush and had a cart full of groceries, including ice cream. So I just told her, "I don't work here, bye." And apparently that was the worst thing that I could have said to her. She begins to go off on me saying, "Don't you dare lie to me. You look like a Costco employee, so I know you're lying. I know the manager personally. You'd better clean up your act or I will get you fired." So at this point, I just chuckle to myself and walk away. Come checkout, I'm in line and there's two people behind me. This Karen squeezes up to me and says, "Move. I need to check out. Don't think I'm not gonna report you." Now, I did not move. I told her to get to the back of the line, to shut up and learn some basic manners. Once again, Karen was not having it. She says, "How dare you speak to me like that, you racial slur. I will tell people that you assaulted me." Who would they believe, me or you? So at this point, I tell her to back off. And one of the people behind me went to an employee who then comes up to Karen. This woman was still adamant that I work there and said to speak to the manager. The manager she knows tells her that I don't work there and that she would be having her membership revoked for throwing a tantrum and going on a racist tirade. Now, I laughed as I was checking out, laughing with the cashier and side-eyeing Karen as they escorted her away. Now, Karen, not content giving me the last laugh, turns around and yells, "You, racial slur, are the problem. I can't wait for the day Donald Trump deports you back to Africa." And I'm over here like, ma'am, I was born in Michigan. I still got the last laugh, and needing a snack, I took my time and grabbed a hot dog. As I was leaving, I see that Karen was getting arrested. Apparently, she didn't like that a black woman would be canceling her membership, so she threw a purse at her. I just walked away enjoying my hot dog. Now guys, how the heck does someone look like they work at a Costco? It sucks so much that OP had to go through that, but at least he got to see her get arrested and enjoy one of those delicious Costco hot dogs. This happened back in 2013. I was going to a convention to do a presentation. The convention is held in a very touristy city, in a 5-star hotel. I go in wearing my dark blue business suit, carrying my laptop. I do the presentation, everything goes well, and afterwards, I find a classmate of mine from nursing school and decided to grab a coffee. We decided not to leave the hotel and go to the patio where they had a cafe. So we're on the patio, catching up, enjoying our coffee and the sun, and generally having a good time. The patio was almost full at this point, mostly with student nurses and people from the convention. The cafe staff is busy with all the people there. At some point, my friend excuses herself to go visit the bathroom, and I check my phone. Suddenly, I feel someone looming over me. And then I hear a high-pitched, "Hey, excuse me." I then turned my head to see a slightly pissed off woman staring daggers at me. She looks like a prototypical Karen. The haircut, the expensive clothes, and the attitude. She says, "Me and my friends are waiting for someone to take our order for 5 minutes." She then points to a couple of tables over where a couple of women in the same subcategory are sitting. I said, So get off your break and come take our order." I told her, "I don't think so. You have to wait for one of the servers. I don't work for the hotel." Karen, leaning towards me and getting in my face, says, "Listen, we are paying customers, and you are gonna do as you're told. Your break is over." And with that, she sweeps her arms on the table, spilling the coffees and glasses of water on me, but mostly on the laptop that I had next to the table. At that point, I'm furious. I get up and there's a noticeable size difference, as I'm 6'4" and she's maybe 5 feet tall. I said, "You, listen, I don't work here, and even if I did, I wouldn't serve people with your attitude. And if something happened to my laptop, you're paying for it." Karen then says, "How dare you threaten me? Do you know who I am?" I told her I don't, and I don't care. So at that point, a lot of people were looking at us, and a server was coming over. The servers were dressed in black pants, white shirts, and a black apron, and Karen decided to try to slap me. The server asked what's happening here, and Karen says, "Your colleague is refusing to take our order, and is threatening me." The server takes one look at me and says, "Madam, this man doesn't work here, he's a customer." Apparently her little brain can't compute because she continued foaming until manager and security appeared. When the manager asked what happened, I replied, "This woman insulted me, deliberately dropped my coffee on me, and tried to attack me. I would like to press charges." The implication of getting the police involved led to another rant by Karen. How it was discriminating against foreign tourists and that she would sue me and the hotel, and how we should respect our betters. You know, lovely stuff. The aftermath was that I pressed charges on Karen and she was kicked out of the hotel. The laptop was ruined due to the coffee and water spilling on it, and the hotel offered me a full paid weekend reservation at the time of my choosing. About a year later, I received a hefty settlement for the incident, around 3,500 euros. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/IDontWorkHereLady. If you guys enjoyed the stories today, do hit that thumbs up button. And if you missed the last episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady, I'll link it right here. Cops make a huge mistake by thinking that OP is a drug mule. Guys, it's a crazy story, so check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.